This boy smashes through a wall with a single punch, scaring off the hooligan and saving the girl he lives with. To thank him, the girl starts walking around the house wearing nothing but her underwear, which makes the boy blush instantly. From that moment on, it feels like he's been cursed. Every time he saves her, he somehow ends up accidentally seeing more than he should. As a teenager longing for love, this situation leaves him feeling incredibly conflicted. The boy's name is Morito, and he possesses strength on par with the Hulk, thanks to his ancestry as a yokai. Strangely enough, despite his overwhelming combat power, Morito chooses not to fight back and would rather get hurt when confronted by delinquent students. All of this is because Morito is a kind-hearted person. If he punches with all his strength, he could shatter a tank, and ordinary people would not survive it. His father, Raiji, appreciates his son's composure and sense of responsibility, so he entrusts Morito with an important task. Morito learns that he is assigned to protect the witch Nico, and he immediately feels troubled. Nico was his childhood neighbor and often used magic to tease him. It was only after she left with her mother, Ibuki, to train in the witch's sacred land that Morito's life finally returned to peace. Raiji tells Morito that they are descendants of a union between humans and yokai, and that their ancestors formed a contract with the witches. According to the contract, whenever a witch is in need, the descendants of the yokai are duty-bound to become her guardian. Raiji is about to leave on an extended business trip overseas, which is why he entrusts this task to his son. Raiji even teases Morito, saying that living together with a high school girl is actually a pretty sweet deal. Nico makes her first official appearance by smashing the living room window and landing directly in front of Morito on her knees. She is still as clumsy with magic as she was in childhood. Morito prepares snacks for Nico, and then calmly cleans up the broken glass. Nico is captivated by Morito's handsomeness and gentleness. She begins to fantasize about experiencing married-like intimate moments during their cohabitation. In order to gain Morito's favor, Nico promises to use magic to repair the glass. Following Nico's instructions, Morito takes out his favorite cup to serve as the medium for casting the spell. In the next moment, the glass is indeed repaired, but Morito's favorite cup shatters. Morito feels devastated. After asking Nico, he learns that the cup was used as a sacrifice to repair the glass. Such settings will appear throughout the entire anime. Nico's magic is mysterious, but every time she uses it, there is almost always an extra cost. The trouble is that Nico does not realize some of the costs can be very dangerous. In order to show off the results of her years of training, she casually casts a spell and ends up turning herself into a flat paper doll. At that moment, a gust of wind blows Nico away, and Morito immediately runs after her. Unfortunately, Nico falls into the gap between two walls. Once the magic ends, she will be crushed to death by the walls. At that moment, Momoda, the bad student who attacked Morito earlier, happens to pass by. Their conflict dates back to childhood. Morito once injured Momoda while protecting Nico and was later scolded by Momoda's father. Since then, Morito has stopped using violence, but Momoda continues to harass him. But now Morito is in a hurry to save Nico and has no time to deal with Momoda. He smashes the wall with a single punch and manages to rescue Nico just before her spell wears off. Then, Morito has Nico use Momoda's most cherished hairstyle as a sacrifice to repair the damaged wall. After the crisis is over, Nico heads to the supermarket and buys a lot of snacks. She uses magic to make the snacks lighter. Morito warns Nico not to use magic so casually, as their identities could easily lead ordinary people to see them as monsters. Nico does not mind. She wants to use her magic to help those in need, believing that doing so will give more meaning to her identity as a witch. At that moment, someone in need appears. A girl is trapped in a fire. Nico and Morito get on a flying broom to go rescue her, but the broom cannot support the weight of all three of them. Nico has no choice but to use magic to make Morito lighter. In Japanese, the word for light can also imply being frivolous. Morito is affected by the spell and becomes more frivolous as he constantly makes unfunny jokes and tries to hit on the rescued girl. Soon, the additional cost of using magic appears. The target of the spell becomes extremely heavy. Morito is devastated once again because not only do the snacks become heavier, but his own body also gains weight. Morito's yokai heritage gives him the physique of a superhero. Yet despite his incredible strength, he's nearly driven to death by Nico's magic on the very first day they meet. At night, Nico tries to sleep beside Morito. Morito, who never cries even when he's beaten, now truly feels like crying. He cannot understand why Nico has no sense of caution around the boys. Raiji once told Morito that Ibuki had foreseen through divination that Nico would face danger within a year, which is why she needed his protection. Not wanting to scare her, Morito chooses to keep the prophecy a secret for now. Compared to Morito, Nico seems extremely immature. Every day, she fantasizes about their relationship progressing further and sees herself as the heroine of a romance anime. Sometimes, Morito feels a stronger urge to hit Nico than beat Momoda. especially after the new school term begins. Nico becomes immersed in romantic fantasies as she watches the young boys and girls at school. At this moment, Morihito says he has something to tell her. Nico's heart starts racing, convinced that Morihito is about to confess his feelings. But to her surprise, Morihito merely reminds her not to reveal her identity as a witch and not to use magic. He is deeply worried that if Nico's identity is exposed, she may encounter the danger foretold in Ibuki's prophecy. Their homeroom teacher is named Yuri, an otaku who loves reading manga. Afraid that revealing her interests would make the students think she is childish, she introduces herself by saying her hobby is dancing. Nico notices that Morihito's eraser is almost used up while he's taking notes on their classmates. Wanting to make sure he doesn't run out of eraser, she tries to cast the Embiggen spell on the eraser, but accidentally hits the tip of Morihito's hair instead. Yuri happens to see Morihito's new hairstyle and begins to suspect that he might actually be the grown-up version of Gon Freezy SS. Nico tries to lift the spell but accidentally hits Morihito's head instead. Witnessing this, Yuri is completely overwhelmed and begins to wonder if she's hallucinating from reading too many manga. At this moment, Nico causes more trouble. She enlarges Morihito's left arm. Morihito finally realizes that something is wrong with him. In order to prevent the other classmates from noticing, he turns his body sideways during the self-introduction. Morihito pretends to be a crazy anime fan and deliberately talks to his left arm to make others think he is performing a scene from an anime. Prompted by Morihito, Nico gets ready to lift the magic. Just then, she hears the teacher call on her to introduce herself. Distracted, she accidentally casts the spell on herself, causing her to grow larger and unintentionally reveal her identity as a witch. Morihito notices that the classmates look at Nico in an unusual way, and he worries that she might not be able to make friends at school. Unexpectedly, after school, two girls invite Nico to have dinner together. At the restaurant entrance, they encounter harassment from delinquent students. A girl named Kara loudly scolds and drives them away, and Nico becomes deeply impressed by Kara because of this. The other girl is named Ureshino, and she has a more introverted personality. She was classmates with Kara in middle school, and Kara's cheerful nature led them to become friends. Wherever Kara is, things are never quiet. She takes the initiative to ask about the relationship between Nico and Morihito. Upon learning that they live together, Kara immediately starts imagining some crazy scenarios. At this moment, Morihito is nearby guarding Nico. He sees the delinquents causing trouble for the three girls. In just 2 rounds, he knocks out these hooligans. Morihito will not allow anyone to ruin Nico's happy time. The students now have a high level of acceptance towards supernatural powers. Kara asks Nico to demonstrate her magic. As soon as Yuri enters the classroom, she sees the students floating on the ceiling, defying gravity. The next class becomes even more extraordinary. Yuri plans to organize a game for the students, and with Nico's presence, they experience the most unique game ever. Within the barrier Nico sets up, the students can fly freely. Some students float in the air, taking naps, while others imitate flying poses from Dragon Ball. Students from other classes watch enviously, and even Yuri herself is filled with admiration. What happened today has a big impact on Morihito. When he was a child, his Yukai bloodline caused other kids to distance themselves from him, which led him to deliberately hide his identity from then on. In contrast to Morihito's negative attitude, Nico remains very optimistic. She doesn't feel inferior because of her witch identity. At that moment, an accident happens. A delivery truck is lifted to the air because of the barrier. Fortunately, Morihito quickly catches the truck as it flies out of the barrier. No normal human can catch a truck without getting hurt. Morihito can no longer hide his identity and confesses that he is a half-blooded descendant of both Yukai and humans. Another reason Morihito decides to be honest is because he is influenced by Nico's optimistic attitude. The classmates cheer with excitement, thrilled to have 2 superheroes in their class. Morihito and Nico's joyful new semester begins in this happy atmosphere. At night, the woman simply raises her hands, and a prophecy emerges from the book. It reveals that her daughter, Nico, faces deadly danger within a year. The woman's name is Ibuki, and she is a witch. It is the first time she sees such a terrifying prophecy. Ibuki feels utterly hopeless. Unfortunately, Nico doesn't know about the future her mother foresees. Right now, she is too busy living with the most popular boy in school, Morihito. In an effort to get his attention, Nico intentionally wears pajamas to show off her charm. To her disappointment, Morihito comments that her fashion sense is pretty average and that she wears similar clothes every day. Frustrated by this, Nico decides to use magic to enhance her appeal. In order to marry Morihito, Nico works really hard. She sets her sights on a fashion magazine borrowed from a classmate, as she knows there's a spell that lets her wear any outfit shown in the magazine. Soon, she casts the spell and transforms herself into an adorable girl. The awkward part is that the magazine only shows the front of the outfit, so Nico can't recreate the missing back portion. As a result, she ends up wearing only underwear on her back. Nico feels troubled. In order to show her charm to Morihito without accidentally exposing herself, she takes on a wrestler's defensive stance to keep him from getting behind her. When Morihito tries to get up for a glass of water, Nico accuses him of harassment. After successfully showing off her charm, Nico heads back to her room but is accidentally seen from behind by Morihito. Neither of them has any real experience with romance or knows how to pursue the loved one, but they keep finding themselves in ambiguous and intimate moments. Especially Morihito. He often focuses on some weird points, and sometimes suddenly gets close to Nico. You might think he is about to kiss her, but in reality he is just curious about the material of her clothes. While most high school students are interested in games, anime or girls, Morihito has a deep interest in vintage clothing. He can talk about it non-stop for 3 days straight. This drives Nico crazy, and she really wants to use magic to turn Morihito into someone as perverted as Shinosuke Nohara. One of Nico's characters is that she rarely gets angry, and even when she does, she quickly lets it go. That's also one of the reasons why Morihito enjoys being around her. But Morihito's good mood quickly disappears when Ibuki sends over Nico's luggage. Half of it is filled with manga books, along with a letter addressed to Morihito. Ibuki is currently focused on her training, trying to grow stronger so she can complete the divination about the danger facing Nico. At the moment, she can only see limited fragments of the future. Just as Morihito is about to ask what the limited information is, he sees Nico intending to use magic to move her luggage. Following Ibuki's instructions, Morihito tries to persuade Nico not to use magic for carrying things on her own. However, Nico loves to take shortcuts, so she ends up casting a duplication spell, hoping that more versions of herself can help with the task. The spell turns out to be quite useless because when each duplicate appears, Nico will become shorter and lose both intelligence and strength. Originally, Nico could carry 1 box by herself. Now, even with 4 duplicates, they still manage to carry only 1 box. Morihito feels helpless. Worried that Nico might cause another accident, he decides to help her move the luggage himself. After Morihito finishes everything, he is shocked by the contents of the letter. Ibuki mentions that a dog and raindrops will bring danger to Nico. At this moment, Nico is attacked by a dog, and Morihito uses his own arm to block the dog's bite. Unfortunately, this accident is not the danger mentioned in the prophecy. Ibuki sends a piece of paper along with the letter. The pattern on the paper will disappear only when Nico's danger is averted. Morihito starts paying attention to the weather, with every rainy day raising his vigilance. Unfortunately, the upcoming days are filled with rain. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure is watching Morihito's house. Nico doesn't know about her mother's prophecy and insists on going out to buy bread on a rainy day. Morihito worries that it will be difficult to protect her if she goes too far away, so he suggests that they share an umbrella. Nico falls into a fantasy, mistakenly thinking this is a sign of Morihito confessing his feelings. Soon after, Morihito leads her to a secluded spot, and just as they arrive, the rain stops. Just as Nico is expecting a romance confession, Morihito suddenly shouts at someone hiding in the shadows. A mysterious figure wearing a dog mask appears, and his strength and magic are formidable. Morihito uses an illusion to distract the enemy, finally managing to pull off the mysterious figure's mask. At this moment, Nico recognizes him as her friend Kanchi, who is actually a Tengu in his true form. Kanchi's mission this time is the same as Morihito's, which is to protect Nico. Morihito is very dissatisfied. He doesn't understand why Kanchi didn't come to protect Nico earlier. What angers Morihito the most is how close Kanchi and Nico seem, as they constantly talk about the time they spent training together in the mountains. Morihito asks many questions, but Kanchi doesn't answer any of them. Instead, he shows hostility and completely ignores Morihito's presence. So Morihito deliberately provokes Kanchi, claiming that if Kanchi refuses to answer, the two of them will have to fight again. In order to make them get along peacefully, Nico uses magic on the umbrella Kanchi always carries with him. The umbrella, being the medium through which Kanchi uses magic, gains the ability to speak after Nico casts her spell on it. The umbrella reveals the conflict between Kanchi and Morihito, explaining that their yokai ancestors are natural enemies. Especially Morihito's lineage is so famous that their clan member even appears as the main antagonist in the popular anime Demon Slayer. This has caused a lot of jealousy within the Tengu clan. Kanchi's father, who is a huge fan of Demon Slayer, believes that even if his lineage is wiped out as villains in the series, it doesn't matter. The Tengu clan craves attention, so Kanchi was raised with the belief that he must surpass his natural enemies. Kanchi wants to take all the credit for protecting Nico on his own, which is why he has been hiding in the shadows, acting in secret all this time. Kanchi acts very cool, comparing himself to a hero of the world. However, the umbrella exposes him, revealing the truth that Kanchi enjoys playing mobile games and frequently treats his juniors to meals. His original plan was to escape before the loan sharks found him, but Ibuki paid off his debt, and Kanchi came to protect Nico as a way of repaying her. In order to improve the relationship between Kanchi and Morihito, Nico proactively makes tea and intends to chat together. While Nico goes to get the tea leaves, Kanchi tells Morihito the latest prediction from Ibuki. Nico's enemy is in the school. Morihito realizes that the danger doesn't come from accidents or illness, but from an enemy specifically targeting her. Ibuki also instructs Morihito and Kanchi that if Nico learns about this prediction and becomes anxious, it might attract dark forces. The problem is that Kanchi and Morihito haven't realized how dangerous their enemies are. They've inherited their ancestors' tradition of considering each other as natural enemies, and if they spend more than 10 seconds together, they'll start arguing. Kanchi is skilled at hand-to-hand combat but weak with words, and Morihito always ends up winning the verbal battles, causing Kanchi to cry and run away in frustration. Nico doesn't want her two best friends to have a bad relationship, so she thinks of a magic spell to improve their friendship. She secretly casts a spell on some snacks and then forces Morihito and Kanchi to eat them. The magic quickly takes effect. Morihito, who eats the snack first, starts developing a liking for Kanchi, who eats it second. The funny part is that Nico doesn't control the magic properly, causing Morihito to develop an unusually strong fondness for Kanchi. The anime now seems to hint at a romantic connection between the two males. Since the magic only affects the one who eats first, Kanchi becomes very nervous, not expecting Morihito to have feelings for males. Nico, who often reads boys love manga, eagerly anticipates the development between Morihito and Kanchi. In the end, Kanchi couldn't bear it any longer and runs away. He comes across two children whose balloons are stuck in a tree. Using his Tengu jumping abilities, Kanchi retrieves the balloons. However, the snacks he is carrying fall to the ground, and the two children and their dog eat them. Anyone who eats the snacks ends up developing a liking for the next person who eats them. So, this leads to the following scene. The four of them and the dog all hug each other. After returning home, Nico confesses that all of these events happened because of her magic. Just then, the doorbell rings. When Nico goes to open the door, she encounters danger. The enemy has disguised himself as a delivery person and brought clothes infused with dark magic. Nico, deceived into thinking it was Ibuki who sent them to her, puts on the clothes, which completely take control of her. She is then lifted into the air and disappears. At the crucial moment, Kanchi demonstrates his calm nature. He uses magic to seek the help of crows, confirming Nico's direction of movement. Although Nico is kidnapped, she doesn't feel afraid. When she was little, every time she got lost, Morihito was always able to find her. This time, Morihito, with Kanchi's help, finds Nico again. The two boys overcome their mutual animosity and begin their first cooperation. Morihito opens Kanchi's umbrella and uses wind magic to fly up into the sky. Then, Morihito concentrates his power in his hand and punches the unusual clothes, shattering them, but Nico ends up exposed once again. Morihito lends Nico his shirt and begins examining the ripped clothes, but unfortunately, he finds no clues about the enemy. What's more troublesome is that the pattern representing danger is still there, meaning the enemy will attack Nico again. Kanchi looks very worried and decides to move into Morihito's house to protect Nico up close. But the umbrella reveals Kanchi's true reason for moving in. It turns out he ran out of living expenses and wants to save on rent. Nico worries that Kanchi and Morihito will start arguing again, but in fact her concern is unnecessary. After this collaboration, their relationship has already improved. Next, Kanchi shows his enthusiastic personality. In just a few days of living together, he's already become friends with the neighbors. Everything seems perfect, except for the still unresolved danger. Which Nico has already been part of the human high school for a while now, and she gets along well with her classmates. No one discriminates against her because of her identity as a witch. I suspect that's mostly because, after all, this is high school, and anyone with even a shred of common sense knows that a single spell from a witch could reincarnate them into a goblin in another world. There are many imaginative students at the school, and one of them is Nico's teacher, Yuri. She's a hardcore anime fan who remembers quotes and special moves from popular anime even better than the original creators. One day, she accidentally overhears a conversation between Nico and Ureshino and finds out that Ureshino is an illustrator. Ureshino is passionate about creating derivative work of anime, and has over 10,000 fans on social media. Coincidentally, Yuri also loves following illustrators, and after doing some digging, she discovers that her favorite illustrator is actually Ureshino. Just then, Nico suddenly approaches her, startling Yuri. Not wanting to ruin her image, Yuri pretends to have no interest in anime. Back in the office, Yuri is breathing heavily. She has been following Ureshino for a long time, and discovering that her favorite illustrator is actually her student fills her with the same joy as seeing her own daughter achieve something great. At this moment, Yuri slips into her usual fantasy mode, completely immersed in the world of anime, with Ureshino's artwork playing vividly in her mind. For a brief moment, she even sees Ureshino as a divine figure. Just then, Ureshino shows up to deliver some promotional posters. They are the only ones in the office. Being so close to her favorite illustrator makes Yuri incredibly excited, though she tries her best to stay calm. When she sees that Ureshino has drawn anime characters on the promotional posters, her body starts trembling uncontrollably. In truth, Yuri's disguise isn't working at all, as her desk is covered with manga books. Most importantly, Ureshino notices a piece of anime merchandise that Yuri had lost. She tells Yuri that she truly enjoys the fun and inspiration anime brings. Encouraged by Ureshino's words, Yuri finally embraces her true self and admits her love for anime. Everyone has their own troubles. At this moment, a boy named Hara is asking Nico to make his presence less noticeable by magic. Back in elementary school, he was mocked by his classmates for using the bathroom, and the experience left a deep scar. Ever since, whenever he needs to go during class, he's too afraid to ask for permission, nearly holding it in until he explodes. Nico understands what Hara really wants. He just wishes to go to the restroom without drawing anyone's attention. Nico really wants to help her classmates, so she immediately casts a spell on Hara to lower his presence. However, the spell comes with a drawback. The user must maintain a specific hand gesture for it to work properly. Soon, Nico's magic takes effect. During class, Hara feels a sharp pain in his stomach, which may cause him to lose control at any moment. He quickly makes the hand gesture Nico taught him and runs toward the restroom in a strange posture. Unfortunately, he runs into the PE teacher who is patrolling the hallway. Unfortunately, the PE teacher has an unusually strong sense of awareness. At the critical moment, Morihito steps in and distracts the teacher. Hara finally reaches the bathroom stall, only to face a new problem. If he keeps the hand gesture, he can't take off his pants, but if he uses his hands to do it, the magic will stop working and the teacher and his classmates will notice he's missing from his seat. Luckily, the class bell rings at this moment, and Hara immediately goes into action. 3 boys enter the bathroom, but Hara notices that, unlike his elementary school classmates, they don't make fun of people who use the school toilet. This experience gives Hara the courage he lacked. He no longer needs magic to raise his hand in class and ask to go to the bathroom. Hara's gratitude causes a change in Nico's wand. When Nico gathers enough gratitude, she will evolve into a qualified witch. At this moment, Nico becomes even more determined to help her classmates. After school, Morihito lifts a car to rescue a black cat, which makes 2 female classmates develop feelings for him. The black cat also develops feelings for him. She, like Nico, is a witch with the ability to transform into an animal. Miyao wants to invite Morihito to become her guardian. She fantasizes about receiving his help, becoming the strongest witch, and then marrying him to have 100 children. However, Miyao is extremely shy and has never dared to speak to a boy. At this moment, Morihito has no idea that he is being targeted. Nico and Kanchi are jealous of how popular Morihito is with girls and are teasing him with exaggerated expressions. Later, they accidentally discover the black cat that was just rescued. Miyao successfully enters Morihito's home. Since no one would ever suspect an adorable cat, she shows clear resistance toward Kanchi and Nico, only becoming gentle and calm when interacting with Morihito. At this moment, Morihito demonstrates the proper way to bond with a pet, and his touch brings great pleasure to Miyao. Miyao imagines an intimate scene between the 2 of them and becomes so excited that she even writes a poem about love. The pleasant sensation makes her feel sleepy, and she forgets one important thing. Once she falls asleep, she will turn back into a human. Fortunately, Morihito and the others are too excited over getting a limited edition of a blind box to notice Miyao, and the girl immediately escapes. Nico still does not realize that more and more girls like Morihito. She is busy every day helping her classmates and recently gives a blessing to a girl who is ready to confess her feelings. Influenced by this, Nico has a stronger desire to fall in love. However, Morihito never understands Nico's hints. The young man asks about Nico's weight out of concern to monitor her health. Nico accuses Morihito of not understanding girls, saying that a girl's age and weight are taboo topics. Morihito really does not understand girls. He only knows that he must protect Nico, so every day after school he practices his fighting skills. At night, Kanchi takes advantage of Morihito taking a bath to talk with Nico about a private topic. Nico's feelings for Morihito is obvious, and Kanchi thinks they should quickly come up with a love strategy to prevent other girls from stealing Morihito away. At this moment, a shampoo commercial plays on the TV. Inspired by the idea, Kanchi arranges for Nico to have a chance encounter with Morihito during lunch break and uses wind magic to blow Nico's long hair. The plan goes fairly smoothly at first, as Nico's flowing hair makes her look mature and charming. Unfortunately, Morihito does not react at all. Nico signals Kanchi to increase the magic's effect, and the resulting hurricane messes up Nico's hair, making her look like a ghost coming to kill. Morihito is almost scared into losing control. When the school nurse passes by, the female student files in her hand are blown away, and Morihito uses his exceptional physical strength to pick up all the scattered papers. The girls cheer for Morihito one after another. On the way home from school, almost every minute a girl greets Morihito. Nico has not yet figured out how to keep her man, and she encounters a new problem. She tells her best friends Ureshino and Kara that a boy asked her to have lunch together during the school outing. This school-organized outing is very special because there is a matchmaking tree there, and it is said that anyone who eats lunch together under the tree will become a couple. Kanchi also heard about this and encourages Nico to confess to Morihito under the matchmaking tree during the outing. Nico feels very hesitant because of the recent shampoo commercial incident, which made her think that Morihito has no feelings for her at all. Kanchi believes that Morihito is just too responsible and has been focused on protecting her, so he has overlooked the existence of his feelings for her. With Kanchi's encouragement, Nico decides to test Morihito during the outing. She tells him that a boy asked her out, but she doesn't get the reaction she was hoping for. Morihito says he will temporarily stay away from her to give her space for the confession, and he even expresses that he hopes Nico will find happiness. Not wanting Morihito to notice her sadness, Nico chooses to walk away quickly. After that, Morihito happens to discover that he shares the same hobby with his classmate Keigo. The two of them, who previously had no interaction in class, grow much closer during this outing. Morihito would never have guessed that what he and Keigo share is not just a common interest. Keigo is also not of pure human blood. They are both beings who live and operate in the shadows, far from the realm of ordinary humans. At this moment, Nico pulls herself together. When she arrives near the matchmaking tree, she finds that there are a lot of people there. It seems that her classmates all have a strong desire for love. Nico finds the boy who invited her, only to discover that more than 20 other boys have shown up as well. They all hope to receive Nico's blessing to escape being single, which makes Nico feel extremely awkward. In order to escape their pestering, she uses magic to shrink her body. While flying, Nico accidentally falls into the pocket on Morihito's chest, and what happens next leaves her completely stunned. The girl who first asked Nico for a blessing in love is actually planning to confess to Morihito. The reason is simple. Why she confesses to him is simple. His handsome face is already an important bonus. In addition, Morihito is very kind. There was once a time when he carried 3 elderly people across the street, and the entire country of Japan found out about it. Youth is always accompanied by regrets. This girl, whose name was never even mentioned, is ultimately rejected. Morihito barely knows her, so of course he cannot easily accept a confession from a stranger. But there is actually another reason. Morihito has a complicated feeling toward Nico, the one even he himself cannot clearly describe, yet it holds a very important place in his heart. Nico is different from Morihito, as she is certain that she likes him. When she was very young, her magic once went out of control and destroyed a house. Nico's father had always disapproved of his wife and daughter's identity as witches, and this accident pushed him over the edge, leading him to leave the family. Nico was devastated at the time, and it was Morihito who held her and offered comfort. It was also in that moment that Nico became sure she wanted to marry Morihito. An unexpected event ends Nico's memories, and her transformation time is almost up. When she tries to fly away, her magic fails, but fortunately, Morihito catches her. At this moment, the comedic anime finally gives off the feeling of a romance anime, and Kanchi feels deeply comforted as he witnesses the scene. When Kanchi is about to leave, he runs into an old man. The old man says that the real matchmaking tree is actually the one closest to Nico and Morihito. Kanchi becomes curious and asks how the old man knows that. He is told that the legend originally came from the old man. On this day, Nico and Morihito eat lunch together under the matchmaking tree. They don't say anything, but the intimate atmosphere between them says it all. Young people are always drawn to new things, and Nico completely forgot about her blossoming romance with Morihito. Instead, she was busy becoming a YouTuber with Kanchi. Seriously, even animated characters are my competition now? This job is just too hard these days. Morihito decided to help optimize their channel. He watched all their videos and found the content incredibly boring. More likely to put you to sleep than a math teacher's lecture. Most importantly, there was no connection between the themes of each video. If boredom were a crime, Nico and Kanchi would be serving a life sentence. Morihito was sure the channel wouldn't improve if they kept going like this, so he reached out to his classmate, Keigo. The two had become friends during their last outing. Keigo knows a lot about pop culture and is also a YouTuber himself. Keigo is a bit of a procrastinator. It's pretty common for 2/3 of his videos to pass before the main content even starts. But he's super experienced and gave them a ton of advice on video thumbnails, editing, and music. Morihito noticed one of Keigo's videos had a ton of views. When he asked about it, he learned that Keigo had made his own game, and it got roasted on trending topics because it was so weird. An idea immediately clicked for Morihito. He arranged for Nico to play Keigo's game while Kanchi handled the voice interactions off-screen. Morihito combined all the elements for a viral video. Keigo's quirky game designs, a cute girl's reaction as she played, and Kanchi's interactions. Just a few hours after uploading, the video got fantastic traffic. They uploaded 3 more videos in a row, and all of them did really well. But then Nico and Kanchi just quit. They're easily drawn to new things, but they also get bored of them just as quickly. Nico still prefers helping others find happiness, and her chance came soon enough. Their classmate, Suzuka, is perfect in every way, from her behavior to her family background. But even this perfect girl has her worries. Suzuka has absolutely no talent in anything outside of her studies. She comes from a large family, and her grandmother is extremely strict with all the children. Recently, Suzuka has a tea ceremony exam coming up. If she fails, she'll have to spend even more time studying tea ceremony, leaving no time for dating or enjoying her youth. Nico knows Morihito is a fast learner, so she used her magic to synchronize Suzuka's and Morihito's bodies. This way, if Morihito could quickly learn the tea ceremony, he could help Suzuka pass the test by taking it in the next room, synchronized with her. Unfortunately, Suzuka's grandmother started the test a day early, leaving Morihito no time to practice with Suzuka. They had to start the test unprepared, and right from the beginning, a lot of unexpected things happened. Morihito is stronger than Suzuka, so all his movements looked distorted when synchronized to her. Then Morihito choked on some food, and Suzuka, affected by this, accidentally spat her snack onto her grandmother's face. When drinking tea, because Morihito and Suzuka are different heights, tea spilled all around Suzuka's mouth, which was very ungraceful. Finally, her grandmother declared she failed the test. It was at this moment that an unexpected event changed everything. A bee flew into the room, and her grandmother is terrified of bees. Morihito, relying on his combat instincts, made a move to catch it, and Suzuka simultaneously caught the bee. The way Suzuka caught the bee looked incredibly cool to her grandmother, and because of that, she passed the tea ceremony test. Morihito could help Suzuka, but Kanchi was a different story. Kanchi, who is a Tengu, still hadn't really gotten used to human world rules. He was spending a lot of money and wasn't able to pay Morihito for living expenses. To help Kanchi develop better habits, Morihito forced him to get a part-time job at an amusement park. During his interview, Kanchi showed off his amazing jumping and balancing skills. He's got that yokai physique after all, and he landed the role of a hero. But as soon as rehearsals started, the director instantly regretted it. Kanchi would always voice his opinion if he wasn't happy with a performance, which led to constant interruptions and frequent arguments between him and the director over the script. It got really crazy when Kanchi saw a girl playing a female colleague one moment, only to transform into a monster the next. Kanchi was completely freaked out. He thought the plot was even more ridiculous than Japanese anime. Awkwardly, after Kanchi defeated the monster, the director told him that the monster was only supposed to command the villains, and Kanchi needed to defeat the villains instead. Kanchi kept causing problems, and the director warned him that he wouldn't get paid today if he didn't stick to the script. Kanchi was actually ready to compromise, but then he found out the original actor, an older guy, had twisted his ankle, which is why Kanchi was filling in. The man's son was coming to the amusement park today, and he'd be super disappointed if his dad couldn't perform. Kanchi grew up with his own father and felt that fathers are role models for their sons, so not being able to keep a promise would have a big impact. So, Kanchi came up with a plan to help the man. He and the older actor swapped costumes. Kanchi played the monster and completely rewrote the script on the fly. He acted like he was sent flying a huge distance with just a light kick from the man. Kanchi's over-the-top performance made the older actor's hero character look super strong, meaning the man didn't have to do any exaggerated attack moves. In the end, the show was a massive hit with the kids. Only the director was furious. He refused to pay Kanchi because he'd changed the script. Morihito didn't rush Kanchi for the living expenses. He really admired Kanchi for helping the older actor. However, Morihito's leniency couldn't last forever. Kanchi still needed to figure out how to make money, so he took on a bunch of jobs he could do from home. These jobs were boring and repetitive, and Kanchi couldn't stand spending long hours on them. He pleaded with Nico, and she came up with a magic spell to speed up his actions. There were a few things to watch out for though. For example, it couldn't be undone for 3 days, and if he used the 10 times speed up magic, his mind might break. Kanchi figured since he was a Tengu, he wasn't as fragile as humans, so he insisted on the 10 times speed up magic. From that moment on, Kanchi's nightmare began. Kanchi spoke so fast that no one could understand him. And there was another huge problem. Nico and Morihito's speaking speed seemed incredibly slow to Kanchi, and their distorted movements looked terrifying. When I watch anime, I've sometimes watched it at 4 times speed, but I never keep that up for very long. Now Kanchi has to maintain this for 3 days, and I can't even imagine how much more he's going to freak out. Kanchi just decided to go back to his room to work, avoiding Nico and Morihito's strange appearances. Soon enough, Kanchi hit another wall. Nico's magic only sped up Kanchi himself. The flow of time remained the same. Although the magic would only last for 3 days, it would feel like 30 days to Kanchi. Kanchi tried to slow down and communicate with Nico, and Nico sped up her speech, but unfortunately, their communication was still terrible. Kanchi felt hopeless and continued living his solitary life. Every 30 minutes, Kanchi would eat, and 30 minutes in the normal world felt like 5 hours to Kanchi. Luckily, he had the sturdy body of a Tengu. Otherwise, eating so frequently would have probably burst his stomach. Every second now felt incredibly long. Kanchi was living in a nightmare. To help Kanchi out of his predicament, Morihito enlisted Keigo's help. Keigo suggested recording Kanchi's voice and slowing it down to listen, but he hadn't had a chance to try the method yet. Kanchi suddenly delivered a surprise. He had put in a massive effort to continuously slow down his speech, and now his voice was finally somewhat intelligible. Kanchi thought everything was getting better, and he just had to hold out until the third day when the magic would be lifted. But he didn't expect that when the magic finally wore off, he couldn't adapt to normal speed again because he had been in slow motion for so long. Shortly after the Kanchi incident, Kara suddenly approached Nico for help. Kara's mother had passed away from an illness, and Kara unexpectedly found letters her mother had left behind, which her father had thrown into a shredder. Kara really wanted to know what the letters said, but her father refused. When Kara was little, she'd overheard relatives talking and suspected she wasn't her father's biological daughter. Kara wondered if her mother might have mentioned this in the letters, which is why her father was so sensitive. Nico decided to use restoration magic on the shredded letters. To use the magic, she first needed to separate the letter pieces from other debris. Kara was really touched to see Nico and Morito meticulously sorting the paper, and she started helping out too. When the magic finally worked, the truth was something Kara couldn't believe. It turned out she was actually the daughter of her father and his ex-wife, but Kara's birth mother had abandoned her husband and daughter a long time ago. At that moment, Kara's father also showed up. He had been afraid to let his daughter know the truth, worried that Kara would distance herself from her stepmother. For Kara, her birth mother had abandoned her. The stepmother who raised her was her real mother. Nico helped Kara clear up the misunderstanding, and her magic wand transformed again, which meant Nico was about to become a qualified witch. Nico is now gradually adapting to the human world. She's able to help her classmates even without using magic. One boy wasn't good at confessing his feelings, but encouraged by Nico, he eventually succeeded without any magical help. While Nico was busy helping her classmates, a group of people had their eyes on her. They were members of the student council, and they all agreed that using magic at school was totally inappropriate. Morito was instantly bewildered. The student council members generally seemed pretty abnormal, from their clothes to their personalities. One looked like a lewd female villain, another was a young hacker, there were eccentric twins, and even a perverted clown. Every single member of this student council was like they were cosplaying, especially the student council president, Tenryu, who was practically a clone of Jutaro Kuuju. Tenryu invited Morito to join the student council, as he really admired the boy's sense of responsibility. Morito couldn't stand Tenryu's pestering and immediately fled. During lunch, he and his friends went to the rooftop to watch the student council member's introduction video. Morito realized he was a lot like Tenryu. His friends were pretty childish, and he had to solve important matters himself. Just then, Tenryu chased after him again. Judging by the way he looked at Morito, maybe Tenryu and Morito are actually the male and female leads of this anime. It wasn't just Tenryu who liked Morito, Miyao did too. This girl turned into a cat and came to Morito's house again, where she accidentally got drenched by a drink. While Morito was helping her bathe, Miyao had some rather naughty thoughts. In this situation, Miyao was too embarrassed to ask Morito to become her familiar. Just as Miyao was running away again, she unexpectedly discovered that an evil witch was targeting Nico. Miyao, overcoming her shyness, shared her discovery with Morito and Nico. Nico had already heard about a witch family in the neighboring town, and from Miyao, she learned a lot about witches. A long time ago, the white witches and black witches were enemies, eventually leading to a full-scale war. The black witches were defeated and vanished. Now, the Black Witch has reappeared, likely to steal Nico's magic. Nico is a super powerful witch who appears only once every 1,000 years, and by taking her power, the Black Witch would regain dominance. Nico's mom had kept this a secret, fearing her daughter would be scared. Meanwhile, Keigo was badly beaten after being robbed by classmates. Kanchi arrived just in time, defeating the robbers. After questioning them, Kanchi learned that there's a guy at school who calls himself Wolf. He's been giving out special candies to students, making them excited. Many students have lost their true selves, resorting to robbery and fighting, gradually becoming violent. These individuals are all becoming accomplices for the Black Witch to capture Nico. After Kanchi and Keigo parted ways, Kanchi encountered a white-haired boy. This stranger claimed to be Wolf. As a descendant of the Tengu, Kanchi's fighting ability is far superior to ordinary people. But even so, he was utterly defeated by Wolf. Kanchi used his last bit of strength to return to Morito's house. His injuries improved under Nico's magic healing. After some investigation, they concluded that Wolf is likely an accomplice of the Black Witch. The special candies are also magical, created by the Black Witch specifically to control humans. During the investigation into the Black Witch, Keigo provided a lot of help. He once had hopes of becoming a professional ice skater, but a car accident ended his athletic career. However, Keigo still has an athlete's observational and reaction skills. He went undercover and found out when Wolf would launch his full-scale attack. Unfortunately, before that, Miyao was captured by the Black Witch. Morito had one less companion. Just as he was agonizing over how to deal with the enemy, he and Keigo fell into a magic circle. Keigo took off his jacket and then looked at the crescent moon symbol hidden on his hand. The next moment, his hair turned white, and his second personality, known as Wolf, fully awakened. Even after losing Morito, Nico and Kanchi hadn't lost their will to fight. A large crowd had gathered in the park, all of them being manipulated after eating some enchanted candy. Nico cast a presence erasing spell, allowing her and Kanchi to sneak through the crowd to find the witch responsible. But before they could, the manipulated people suddenly went on a blind, indiscriminate rampage. Getting close meant getting hurt. That's when Nico came up with another plan. She used her flight magic to draw everyone's attention, creating an opening for Kanchi to locate the witch. But this witch was too cunning to fall for the diversion, and she managed to capture Kanchi. Luckily, Nico had cast a clone spell on him beforehand. The real Kanchi, hidden by an invisibility cloak, used the opportunity to launch a successful sneak attack. However, the crisis wasn't over. The witch revealed she had been hired by a mysterious figure to capture Nico in exchange for more power and a longer life. The witch refused to name her employer, pinning her hopes on Keigo defeating Morito to turn the situation around. You see, Morito is a descendant of Eastern ogres, while Keigo carries the blood of Western demons. Their fight was intense. Morito was on the ropes at first, but the moment he realized he was carrying the hopes of all his friends, he unleashed his full potential and took Keigo down with a single punch. Desperate to save her own skin, the witch agreed to reveal the entire plan. But just as she was about to talk, all her magical power was suddenly drained, and her body disintegrated into ash. The mysterious figure had placed a curse on her. The moment she tried to reveal their secrets, she would perish. With the immediate threat gone, no one blamed Keigo. Morito, in particular, had already guessed the reason for his betrayal. Later, when everyone visited Keigo's home, Morito's suspicions were confirmed. Years ago, Keigo and his mother were in a car accident that ended his athletic career and left his mother paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair. Keigo had made the deal with the witch in a desperate attempt to heal his mother. Upon learning the truth, Nico produced a magic potion, made from her own umbilical cord from birth, that could permanently heal Keigo's mother. To repay this incredible kindness, Keigo moves in with Nico. He joins Morito and Kanchi to stand guard against any future attacks from the mysterious figure. At this point, Morito's house has officially turned into a supernatural boarding house, filled with nothing but ogres and demons. Congratulations, you've just finished another anime recap here on my channel. Feel free to rate the show in the comments. This anime is airing 2 seasons back to back, which means season 2 will start right after this season's finale next week. If you want to find out the mysterious figure's identity and see what new allies will join Nico's crew, make sure you subscribe to my channel.